The quantum research station Prometheus hung in the void of deep space like a fragile crystal suspended in darkness. Inside, Dr. Area Chen watched the impossible unfold with a mixture of terror and exhilaration that burned through her veins like liquid fire. It began with a whisper, a microscopic perturbation in the quantum field that most researchers would have missed entirely. But Area Chen was not most researchers. Her team had spent the last 3 years developing detection systems that pushed the boundaries of human technological understanding, systems that could catch the faintest quantum resonances that most alien civilizations wouldn't even recognize as meaningful data. The first sign was subtle. A quantum sensor, a device so advanced it made traditional supercomputers look like abacuses, began to vibrate. Not the mechanical vibration of traditional machinery, but a quantum-level oscillation that seemed to ripple through the very fabric of reality. Aria's hand hovered over the primary diagnostic panel, her augmented neural interface already parsing millions of data points per second. "Marcus," she called, her voice calm despite the increasing intensity of the readings. "We've got something." Marcus Rodriguez, her lead quantum engineer, materialized beside her. Where Aria was methodical and precise, Marcus was controlled chaos. A brilliant mind that saw patterns where others saw only noise. His augmented eyes, a patchwork of biological and technological marvel, scanned the readouts with an intensity that made the air around him crackle. "That's not possible," he muttered, but there was no dismissal in his voice, only wonder. The quantum sensors began to liquefy. Literally liquefy. Advanced quantum circuitry, materials that could withstand temperatures hotter than the surface of stars and pressures that could crush neutron stars, began to melt. Not in any conventional sense. The metallic components transformed into a silvery fluid that seemed to breathe, to pulse with an inner light that defied every known law of physics. Aria's neural implants screamed warnings. Containment protocols initiated automatically. Blast shields of quantum-locked materials began to descend, designed to isolate any potential catastrophic event. But something was different this time. The shields themselves began to warp, their molecular structures twisting in ways that shouldn't be possible. An explosion was imminent. By all scientific understanding, everyone in the research station should have been vaporized in an instant. But nothing happened. The silvery fluid hung in the air, suspended like a living painting. It formed intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with an intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Fractal designs emerged and dissolved, mathematical impossibilities made manifest in three-dimensional space. "It's communicating," Marcus breathed. Aria didn't respond immediately. Her mind was racing, neural networks processing potential scenarios at speeds that would have fried a standard human brain. This was more than an anomaly. This was a fundamental challenge to everything humanity understood about the nature of reality. The station's emergency systems remained eerily silent. No alarms, no warnings, just the gentle pulsing of the quantum fluid and the rapid breathing of two humans who knew they were witnessing something unprecedented. Outside the station's reinforced windows, space itself seemed to shimmer. Stars blurred and refocused, their light bending in ways that suggested reality was more flexible than anyone had ever imagined. "We're not dealing with a phenomenon," Aria finally said, her voice steady. "We're dealing with a first contact." Marcus looked at her, a wild grin spreading across his face, assuming it wants to be contacted. The quantum fluid began to coalesce, forming shapes that were simultaneously geometric and organic. Mathematical equations danced across its surface, complex algorithms that seemed to be solving themselves in real time. It was beautiful, it was terrifying, and it was just the beginning. Somewhere in the vast cosmic darkness, something had noticed humanity, and it was reaching out. The quantum containment fleet descended like a storm of technological fury. 17 different alien civilizations had united, their massive vessels casting planet-sized shadows across the void of space. Each ship represented millennia of technological advancement, weapons that could crack planets, shields that could deflect stellar radiation, computational systems so complex they could simulate entire civilizations in milliseconds. Commander Zixalk of the Preservers stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Vigil, his 6 crystalline eyes focused on the holographic display tracking the human research station. Humans were barely a century into space exploration, a mere blip in the cosmic timeline. Their technologies were primitive, their understanding of quantum mechanics laughable at best. "Prepare total annihilation protocols," Zixalk commanded, his translator rendering the words in 17 different linguistic matrices simultaneously. The bridge crew moved with mechanical precision, tentacles and appendages dancing across control surfaces that would look like incomprehensible art to human eyes. But something was wrong. The quantum anomaly detected near the human station defied every known containment strategy. Previous encounters had been swift and brutal. Entire research outposts erased, planetary systems quarantined, civilizations pushed to the brink of extinction. This anomaly was different. It didn't behave like a conventional quantum threat. It seemed adaptive. Intelligence reports streamed in from multiple sources. The human station hadn't been destroyed. Worse, it hadn't even been significantly damaged. While other species would have been reduced to atomic dust, the humans remained operational, their systems somehow interfacing with a quantum phenomenon that should have been impossible. "Scan again," Zixalk ordered, a note of uncertainty creeping into his normally emotionless voice. The next series of scans revealed something unprecedented. The quantum anomaly wasn't just a threat, it was communicating. Not through conventional communication channels, but through complex mathematical patterns that seemed to reshape reality itself. Quantum equations danced across sensor displays, solving themselves in real time, creating computational models that made the Preserver's most advanced systems look like children's toys. On a dozen different communication channels, emergency protocols were being transmitted. The Galactic Science Consortium was convening an emergency session. Representatives from the most advanced civilizations were gathering. Their collective technological might focused on understanding and neutralizing the threat. But the humans weren't panicking. Intercepted communications from the research station revealed something shocking. Dr. Aria Chen and her team weren't preparing for defense. They were preparing for communication. "We're not dealing with a weapon," one transmission revealed. "We're dealing with a language." Zixalk's secondary neural cluster processed the implications. Languages could be understood, potentially controlled. But this was no ordinary language. These were quantum equations that rewrote the fundamental rules of reality with each transmission. The fleet's most advanced sinolinguistic systems began to parse the quantum patterns. Complex algorithms tried to break down the communication, to find some semblance of structure. But each attempt revealed only more complexity, more layers of meaning that seemed to exist simultaneously across multiple dimensional states. Somewhere in the vast computational banks of the Eternal Vigil, something unexpected happened. A quantum resonance began to build, subtle at first, then growing in intensity. The ship's defensive systems, designed to repel any external quantum interference, began to transform. Zixalk watched in horror as intricate mathematical patterns spread across the ship's primary computational core. It wasn't an invasion. It was more like a conversation, a complex dialogue that was rewriting the very fundamental systems of their most advanced technology. "Containment protocols are failing," a junior officer reported, her voice a mixture of terror and fascination. The quantum anomaly was doing something unprecedented. It wasn't attacking. It was exploring, learning, communicating in a language so advanced that it transformed the very systems trying to understand it. Across the galaxy, other ships in the quantum containment fleet began to report similar phenomena. Defensive systems were becoming something else, not compromised, not destroyed, transformed. And at the center of it all was a small human research station, with 2 scientists who seemed more curious than afraid. Commander Zixalk realized something that sent a quantum tremor through his entire being. Humanity was no longer just another emerging species. They were something else entirely. A message emerged from the quantum interference, a complex mathematical symphony that seemed to pulse with an almost living intelligence. First contact was happening, and nothing would ever be the same again. Marcus Rodriguez stood before a device that looked more like a fever dream than a scientific instrument. Quantum entanglement modulators intertwined with custom-built acoustic resonators, biological neural network interfaces wrapped around crystalline data cores that pulsed with an almost living light. This wasn't just a piece of equipment. It was a communication device unlike anything ever conceived. "We're not trying to contain it," Marcus shouted over the station's emergency systems, which had long since gone silent. "We're trying to talk to it." Dr. Arya Chen watched with a combination of scientific precision and raw human intuition. Her augmented neural interface was running calculations that would have melted standard computational systems, tracking quantum fluctuations that existed simultaneously across multiple potential realities. The device Marcus had constructed was a testament to human innovation, where alien civilizations approached quantum phenomena with rigid mathematical models and overwhelming technological force. Humans saw a puzzle, a conversation waiting to happen. Each component was a carefully crafted translation mechanism, not just converting data, but interpreting intent. Harmonic resonance at 72.3%, Arya called out, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe and shift with each touch. Quantum entanglement holding at maximum coherence. The room itself seemed to vibrate, not with mechanical energy, but with something more fundamental. Reality itself felt thin, like a membrane about to be punctured by something extraordinary. Marcus adjusted a series of acoustic modulators. They looked like musical instruments designed by a mad scientist. Copper tubes intertwined with quantum sensors, crystalline resonators that captured and transformed energy in ways that defied conventional physics. Each adjustment sent ripples through the quantum fluid that had initially captured their attention. "It's not just a phenomenon," Marcus muttered, more to himself than to Arya. "It's a communication attempt." Outside the research station's reinforced windows, space itself seemed to bend. Stars stretched and compressed, their light twisting into complex geometric patterns that told stories in mathematical languages more complex than any spoken word. The quantum fluid from the initial encounter had transformed. No longer a simple silvery substance, it now moved with purpose. Fractal patterns emerged and dissolved, complex equations solving themselves in real time, creating computational models that would have taken standard supercomputers centuries to process. "We're close," Arya said, her voice a mixture of scientific calm and barely contained excitement. "It's responding to our harmonic frequencies." The device Marcus had created was more than a scientific instrument. It was a bridge, a translation mechanism that approached the quantum anomaly not as a threat to be contained, but as an intelligence to be understood. Alien civilizations would have approached this with overwhelming technological force. Humanity approached it with curiosity, with the fundamental belief that communication was possible, that understanding was always more powerful than destruction. A sudden burst of quantum energy erupted from the device, not destructive, not violent, but filled with such complex information that the station's computational systems began to transform. Quantum sensors rewrote themselves. Data cores restructured their fundamental architecture. Marcus looked at Arya, a wild grin spreading across his face. "I think it's talking back." The Maverick Protocol was working. Humanity was about to have a conversation that would redefine everything known about intelligence, communication, and the very nature of reality itself. Information cascaded through the sector like a quantum tsunami. Alien computational systems collapsed first. Massive ships with technologies developed over millennia went dark simultaneously, their advanced shields and defensive networks overwhelmed by a communication so complex it defied fundamental understanding. Quantum firewalls, systems designed to repel the most sophisticated cyber intrusions, dissolved like tissue paper in a hurricane. But at the center of the chaos, the human research station remained operational. Dr. Aria Chen and Marcus Rodriguez watched as computational models beyond human comprehension unfolded around them. What looked like random energy pulses to others revealed intricate patterns, a language more complex than any communication ever encountered in galactic history. "It's not an attack," Marcus said, his augmented eyes tracking quantum fluctuations that danced between potential realities. "It's a conversation." The information flow was staggering. Each quantum pulse contained more data than entire alien civilization's historical archives. Mathematical models solved themselves in milliseconds, creating computational structures that rewrote fundamental physical laws with each transmission. Alien fleet commanders watched in horror as their most advanced systems became conduits for a communication they couldn't comprehend. Defensive networks transformed into translation mechanisms. Weapon systems became computational bridges. The very technologies designed to protect became pathways for understanding. "Quantum coherence at maximum," Aria called out, her neural interface pushing human cognitive limits. "We're receiving something extraordinary." The information wasn't just data. It was alive. Complex algorithmic structures that seemed to breathe, to think, to exist simultaneously across multiple dimensional states. Each pulse contained entire universes of potential, mathematical symphonies that told stories more complex than language could ever capture. Across the sector, research stations and military installations experienced total system transformation. Not destruction, not invasion, something far more profound. Communication. Marcus's custom-built quantum interface began to pulse with an inner light. Biological neural networks intertwined with quantum computational cores, creating a hybrid system that was neither purely technological nor completely organic. Something new emerged, a bridge between human creativity and a cosmic intelligence that had been waiting to be understood. "They've been trying to talk to us," Marcus breathed. "Not just us, every emerging civilization, but we're the first to actually listen." The quantum anomaly was a test, a complex, multidimensional communication protocol designed to identify species capable of true breakthrough thinking. Most civilizations would have responded with force, with destruction. Humanity responded with curiosity. Computational models showed potential realities splitting and merging. Quantum equations solved themselves, revealing complex narratives of potential cosmic evolution. Each pulse contained more information than entire planetary archives, more complexity than most species could comprehend in 1,000 lifetimes. Alien fleet commanders transmitted emergency protocols, quarantine measures, defensive strategies. But it was too late. The quantum communication had already begun its fundamental restructuring, not as an invasion, but as a conversation more profound than any first contact in galactic history. Humanity stood at the breaking point of understanding, and nothing would ever be the same again. With the galactic containment fleet paralyzed, Dr. Aria Chen made the decision that would be called either unprecedented brilliance or absolute suicide. They would enter the anomaly, not through conventional means, but by transforming their entire research station into a quantum resonance vessel. The metamorphosis began immediately. Hull plates liquefied and reformed, molecular structures rearranging themselves with a fluidity that defied every known law of physics. Quantum drives merged with experimental communication arrays, creating a hybrid system that was part machine, part living organism. The research station was no longer just a vessel of exploration. It was becoming a living translation mechanism. Marcus Rodriguez managed the transformation with a combination of mathematical precision and wild-eyed creativity. His augmented systems interfaced directly with the quantum anomaly, each neural connection a bridge between human consciousness and something far more complex. "We're creating a quantum translation matrix," he explained to Aria, though she was experiencing the same neural feed, not just observing, participating. Emergency protocols from the Galactic Containment Fleet continued to stream in, desperate commands to abort, to retreat, to destroy the anomaly at all costs. But those transmissions were becoming increasingly fragmented, their computational systems slowly being rewritten by the quantum communication. The station's exterior began to shimmer, its molecular structure becoming increasingly translucent. Mechanical components merged with quantum energy fields, creating a vessel that was simultaneously technology and pure information. Cooling systems transformed into neural networks. Propulsion mechanisms became communication interfaces. Quantum resonance at maximum. Arya called out, her voice a mixture of scientific calm and barely contained excitement. We're approaching transition point. Outside, space itself seemed to bend. Stars compressed and stretched, their light twisting into complex geometric patterns that told stories in mathematical languages more intricate than any spoken word. The boundary between physical reality and pure information became increasingly thin. Marcus's custom-built quantum interface pulsed with an inner light that seemed to breathe. Biological neural networks intertwined with quantum computational cores, creating a hybrid system that was neither purely technological nor completely organic. Something new emerged, a bridge between human creativity and a cosmic intelligence that had been waiting to be understood. "This is madness," Marcus laughed, though there was no fear in his voice. Only pure, unbridled scientific wonder. The research station was no longer just a vessel. It was becoming a living translation mechanism, a bridge between human understanding and a cosmic intelligence that existed beyond conventional dimensional limitations. Arya watched as the station's computational core transformed. Not destroyed, not invaded, but fundamentally reimagined. Each molecular restructuring was a conversation, each quantum pulse a complex dialogue that rewrote the very fundamental understanding of reality. "We're not just entering the anomaly," Arya said, her neural interface pushing human cognitive limits. "We're becoming part of it." The Galactic containment fleet could only watch in stunned silence as the human research station began to dissolve, not in destruction, but in a transformation so profound it challenged everything known about the nature of existence. Calculated madness, indeed, but madness with a purpose. First contact was no longer something that would happen. It was happening, right now. And humanity was about to change everything. Passing through the anomaly was nothing like anyone expected. Reality became fluid. Time separated into layers. Dr. Arya Chen and Marcus Rodriguez experienced multiple potential realities simultaneously, seeing versions of themselves that might have been, could be, or never were. Quantum consciousness expanded beyond the limitations of linear perception, breaking through dimensional barriers that had constrained human understanding since the dawn of consciousness. The first layer revealed potential scientific futures. Arya watched herself in 1,000 different research stations, each version pursuing a slightly different line of quantum investigation. In one reality, she had given up science entirely. In another, she had already made contact with multiple alien civilizations. Each potential timeline existed simultaneously, a complex web of infinite possibilities. Marcus experienced something similar, but filtered through his unique neural architecture. Computational models of potential technological developments danced around him. Quantum computing systems that solved problems before they were even conceived. Communication technologies that transformed entire civilizations with a single transmission. "We're not traveling," Marcus said, his voice resonating across multiple dimensional states. "We're experiencing." The membrane between observation and participation dissolved completely. Quantum equations became living landscapes. Mathematical models transformed into entire ecosystems of potential knowledge. Where conventional scientific understanding saw boundaries, the anomaly revealed interconnected networks of pure information. Arya's consciousness expanded. She could see the fundamental communication protocols of the universe, complex mathematical symphonies that described the intricate dance of energy, matter, and potential. Each quantum pulse was a conversation more profound than any language, telling stories of cosmic evolution that transcended linear time. Fragments of potential realities crashed together and separated. Quantum states collapsed and reformed with each breath, Each thought, the human mind, traditionally limited by linear perception, began to adapt. Neural networks rewrote themselves, creating computational pathways that could process multidimensional information. "We're being evaluated," Arya realized, her consciousness spreading across multiple potential realities. This isn't just communication. It's a test. The test wasn't about technological capability. It was about adaptability, about the capacity to understand beyond established paradigms. Humanity's greatest strength, its capacity for creative thinking, for seeing potential where others saw limitations, was being examined at a fundamental quantum level. Marcus's augmented systems began to interface directly with the quantum communication network, not as an external observer, but as a participant. Computational models that would have taken standard supercomputers millennia to process were solved in milliseconds, creating complex neural networks that bridged human creativity with cosmic intelligence. Potential futures flickered around them. Civilizations rising and falling. Technological developments that transformed entire galaxies. Complex evolutionary paths that showed the intricate connections between consciousness, technology, and fundamental universal structures. The membrane between observer and observed completely dissolved. Arya and Marcus were no longer just humans experiencing a quantum anomaly. They had become part of the communication itself. Translation mechanisms that bridged human potential with a cosmic intelligence that had been waiting to be understood. "We're not just making first contact," Marcus said, his consciousness expanding across multiple dimensional states. "We're redefining what first contact means." The universe held its breath. Humanity was about to change everything. The true nature of human potential emerged like a supernova of understanding. What the quantum anomaly revealed was more than a communication network. It was a cosmic testing mechanism, a complex filter designed to identify emerging civilizations capable of transcending their fundamental limitations. Humanity's perceived scientific weakness, their ability to think beyond established paradigms, was actually their most powerful evolutionary trait. Alien civilizations had approached scientific discovery as a linear progression. Humans saw it as a creative act of imagination. The revelation came in waves of quantum information so complex that traditional computational systems would have been instantly overwhelmed. But human consciousness, with its remarkable capacity for adaptive thinking, began to parse the information like a living algorithm. Dr. Arya Chen's neural networks interfaced with the cosmic communication system, revealing layers of universal understanding that had remained hidden from every other known civilization. The anomaly wasn't just sharing information, it was teaching, showing humanity the intricate connections between consciousness, technological development, and fundamental universal structures. Marcus Rodriguez watched as computational models dissolved and reformed. Potential technological developments that would have taken millennia were compressed into quantum moments of pure understanding. The human mind, traditionally seen as limited, proved to be the most adaptable computational system in the known universe. "We're not just receiving information," Marcus said, his consciousness expanding across multiple dimensional states. "We're being invited to participate in something greater." The cosmic communication network showed humanity's potential evolutionary paths, not as a predetermined trajectory, but as a complex web of infinite possibilities. Each potential future was a living mathematical equation, showing how human creativity could transform entire galactic structures. Alien civilizations watching the transmission experienced a collective moment of existential realization. Humanity wasn't just another emerging species to be categorized or controlled. They were something unprecedented, a civilization that could transform fundamental understanding through pure creative potential. The quantum anomaly revealed itself as more than a communication network. It was a selection mechanism, a cosmic filter that had been waiting for a species capable of true breakthrough thinking. Humanity had passed a test that countless other civilizations had failed. Technological development wasn't just about creating more advanced machines. It was about expanding consciousness, about seeing potential where others saw only limitations. Aria's expanded consciousness parsed multiple layers of information simultaneously. She could see the intricate dance of potential futures, technological developments that could transform entire galaxies, evolutionary paths that connected consciousness, technology, and fundamental universal structures. The alien civilizations of the Galactic Science Consortium could only watch in stunned silence. Their most advanced computational systems were being rewritten, transformed by a communication protocol that challenged everything they understood about scientific discovery. "We're not just making first contact," Marcus said, his neural networks dancing with quantum information. "We're redefining what intelligence means." Humanity stood at the threshold of a new understanding, not as conquerors, not as observers, but as participants in a cosmic conversation more profound than any previous first contact in galactic history. The universe had been waiting, and humanity had finally answered the call. When the Galactic Containment Fleet systems finally rebooted, they found something impossible. The human research station had vanished, but not destroyed. Instead, it had become a massive quantum beacon, broadcasting a complex mathematical symphony that rewrote fundamental understanding of space, time, and consciousness. Commander Zixalk of the Preservers stared at data streams that defied every established scientific protocol. Where other civilizations saw boundaries, humans saw bridges. Where traditional research saw limitations, humanity discovered pathways of infinite potential. The quantum beacon pulsed with a living intelligence that was simultaneously technological and organic. Mathematical equations solved themselves in real time, creating computational models that would have taken standard supercomputers millennia to process. Each quantum pulse was a conversation, a complex dialogue that transformed the very fabric of scientific understanding. Across the galaxy, research stations and computational networks began to restructure themselves, not through invasion or destruction, but through a fundamental reimagining of what communication could mean. The human approach wasn't about control, it was about understanding. Dr. Aria Chen and Marcus Rodriguez had become more than researchers. They were now translation mechanisms, living bridges between human creativity and a cosmic intelligence that had been waiting to be understood. The Galactic Science Consortium convened an emergency session. Representatives from 17 different alien civilizations gathered, their most advanced computational systems struggling to parse the quantum transmission. What they discovered challenged everything they knew about scientific discovery, consciousness, and the fundamental nature of intelligence. Humanity wasn't just another emerging species to be categorized or controlled. They were something unprecedented. A civilization that could transform fundamental understanding through pure creative potential. The quantum beacon revealed evolutionary paths that connected consciousness, technology, and universal structures in ways no other civilization had ever imagined. Potential futures flickered like living mathematical equations, technological developments that could transform entire galaxies, communication networks that transcended dimensional limitations. "We're witnessing a fundamental transformation of scientific understanding," one alien researcher transmitted, her computational systems struggling to maintain coherence. The beacon wasn't just sharing information. It was teaching, showing how limitations were nothing more than unexplored potential, how creativity was the most powerful computational mechanism in the universe. Across research stations and military installations, defensive systems began to transform. Weapon technologies became communication interfaces. Computational networks restructured themselves into living translation mechanisms. Humanity had not just made first contact. They had redefined what first contact could mean. Commander Zixalk watched as the quantum beacon continued to pulse, a complex mathematical symphony that told stories more profound than any language could capture. The human research station had become something more than a scientific instrument. It was a living bridge between human potential and cosmic intelligence. The paradigm had been shattered, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. #epilogue. As quantum waves continued to broadcast across the galaxy, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity's greatest strength was not its technology. It was its capacity to imagine beyond established boundaries, to see potential where others saw only limitations. The conversation had just begun.